right, John chapter 10. This is a beautiful passage. The Good Shepherd. Kalos is the word in Greek for good, like the pleasant shepherd. So there's a lot to be said about this passage. We're definitely going to read it. The chapter 10 is split into two parts. The first one about the Good Shepherd, and the second one about Jesus saying he and the Father are one, which we have seen repetitively at least 3 times already when he says that. So I might not cover that part so much, and I'll let you read it, which is from verse 22 all the way to verse 42. And many believed in him because he said that. But the first part, oh my gosh, there's so much to unpack here. So I will read this. This is important, okay? So read with me. Let's meditate together in the Word of God. John chapter 10. Truly I say to you, and remember, this is just after the whole confusion with the blind guy. Jesus is like, okay, let me finish telling you this. Truly I say to you, he who does not enter the sheepfold by the door, but climbs in by another way, that man is a thief and a robber. But he who enters by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. To him the gatekeeper opens. The sheep hears his voice, and he calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, and he goes before them, and the sheep follow him, for they know his voice. A stranger they won't follow, but they will flee from him, for they do not know the voice of strangers. The figure of speech Jesus used with them, but they did not understand what he was saying. So, okay, figure of speech. Let's just stop there. A figure of speech. The author of the Gospel according to John is saying, this was a figure of speech. Jesus is trying to explain something with a parable, with an allusion, all right? Not an illusion, an allusion. He's making an allusion to something. And he's trying to drive the point home. So he says, I'll go back. Every time he says sheepfold and sheep, they knew he was talking about Israel. They knew. It's impossible not to know. Why? Because King David, the most famous conqueror, who the throne of David is supposed to last forever, was, before he was a king, he was a shepherd. Jesus, before he's crowned the king, he's a shepherd. All right, so that's the correlation. So he says, he who does not enter the sheepfold by the door, but climbs in by another way, that man is a thief and a robber. Right here, in the first figure of speech, there is the gatekeeper, there is the guy that comes by the door, and the guy who jumps over. Okay, 3 figures. The gatekeeper is God. So God opens the door for the true shepherd. But all of the ones that God does not open the door and they try to come in different ways, they are thief and robbers. Get this in your mind, because the thief and the robber will show up in this passage really quickly. Again, when Jesus tries to explain again, okay? So Jesus has free access, and he says his sheep hear his voice, his own. Remember, John chapter 1, he came for his own. So right here, he says his own, his voice. You see verse 4. When he has brought out all his own, he goes before them. When he's talking about he has brought out, he's talking about taking the Jewish people out of the Jewish system into a true relationship with God. So God opens the door. He takes them out of the Jewish religion. That's why he says, if you're tired, come to me, I'll give you rest. My burden is easy and my yoke is light. I will give you a new interpretation, and we will start living this new life, this new relationship together. We go out. They are free to go in and out, and they find pasture. So that's the first figure of speech. Because they didn't understand, Jesus goes on and says it again, verse 7. Jesus says again to them, truly, truly, I say to you, I am the door of the sheep. Now he changes. Now there's no doorkeeper anymore, no gatekeeper anymore. And you have to remember in the context, there's 2 ways you could see this. Number 1, you could see as the shepherd who owned the sheep, which is what we're reading now, and the shepherd who was hired to go find pasture for the sheep. So in a village in Israel, the houses were very close to each other, and the poor families, they wouldn't have many sheep. They would have 4, 5, maybe 6 of them. All of them living together with them in the lounge, like in the front yard. That's why when Jesus is born, for example, there's a bunch of animals with him, because the poor people, they would all live together. So the shepherd would come to the village and they would call the sheep by the name, and the owner of the house, the gatekeeper, would open the gate because he knew his voice and knew that he would come to take care of the sheep, so the sheep could go out and find pasture, and he would bring them back safely. So that's the first context. They didn't understand that. So Jesus was like, okay, I'm going to change this. I'm going to tell the story in a different way, another parable. And then he goes, I am the door of the sheep. All who came before me, all who came before me, they are thieves and robbers. Remember I told you, they're thieves and robbers. Now here's the text that most people use wrong. I don't think I've ever seen anyone preach this correctly. It's probably very arrogant of me, but I've never seen anyone preaching this correctly. All who came before me, they are thieves and robbers. But the sheep did not listen to them. I am the door. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved and will go in and out and find pasture. So you can go in and out, yeah, go there. Okay, not there, not there. I'm the door. Like I control the flow. And then verse 10, this is the verse that I was talking to you about. Very misquoted, wrongly taught for centuries. The thief comes only to steal, to kill, and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. So who is the thief and the robber in this passage? It's clearly not the devil. Clearly not the devil. I can guarantee you this is not the devil. There is plenty of evidence in this text. You don't even need to go outside. When you read the text, he's talking about he's the door, he's the shepherd. It's a comparison between him and the devil. Jesus never compares himself to the devil. He's saying all that came before me, the devil didn't come before him. To the Jewish people never believed to be taught by the devil. He's talking about the former rabbis and teachers and people who tried to impose a law on them that was too heavy. And he said all of them, they were thieves and robbers. They come to kill, steal, and destroy. I came that you have life and life abundantly. And then he says, I am the good shepherd, because they're all bad shepherds. And this is all a reference. Remember, the new birth, the birth from above, is Ezekiel 36, sprinkled with water, giving a new heart of flesh, giving a new spirit. Now, the good shepherd is about Ezekiel 37, because Ezekiel 30, is that 37 or 33? Somewhere in Ezekiel there is judgment in the house, and God is talking about the bad shepherd that is taking advantage of the sheep. And Jesus is saying, look, this is the hired hand. They come to kill, steal, and destroy, because they would take 5 of your sheep and come back with 4 and all of that. So he says, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lies down his life for the sheep. Now he starts another way of saying this. Right after that, he gives them an allusion to Ezekiel, the bad shepherd. Everyone would have gotten it. And then he goes, okay, let me tell you the story a third way. So I told you, I'm the shepherd, and the gatekeeper opens for me. I am the door, and I'm the good shepherd. Now I own the sheep. Now it's a different story, right? I'm the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. He who is a hired hand and not a shepherd, who does not own the sheep, sees the wolf coming and leaves the sheep and flees, and the wolf snatches them and scatters them. Get that, snatches them, okay? He flees because he is a hired hand and cares nothing for the sheep. I'm the good shepherd. I know my own, and my own know me, just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. Remember, Jesus said, all of those who God gave me, no one will be able to what? Snatch them out. No one will be able to snatch them out. My sheep are safe with me. I am the good shepherd. I lay down my life for my sheep. I have other sheep. So now, remember, Jesus said at the beginning of this passage, my own sheep, Israelites, Jewish people. Now, I have other sheep. They're not of this fold. I must bring them also. And they will listen to my voice. So there will be one flock and one shepherd. No Jews and Gentiles, just one. So Jesus is saying, I'm the good shepherd. I have come for this reason. For this reason, the Father loves me, because I lay down my life that I may take it up again. No one takes my life away. I lay down of my own accord, because I am God. I have the power to give life, and I have the authority to take it up again. This charge I have received from my Father. There was again a division among the Jews because of these words. Many of them said, he has a demon. Others said these are not words of someone who's oppressed by a demon. Can a demon open the eyes of the blind? Making reference to John 9. And then we're going to get close to the second part of John chapter 10. But to finish this part, this whole idea of laying down his life for the sheep, the shepherd who owns sheep, and there's a beautiful connection here with Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He leads me down into green pastures. All of that, even though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I shall not. Psalm 23, read it. Psalm 23 and John 10, particularly this part from verse 11 onwards, 11 to 20, it's definitely the same thing. And back in the days of Jesus, the shepherd who would have to take the sheep to this long journey in order for them to find food, he would get you a place, and I'm not going to go into detail on Psalm 23 because that's going to take too long, but he would form this corral, and he would have a very straight door. And in that door, because Jesus said, I am the door, so the sheep come in and out to find pasture. But the shepherd would literally, at night, would lie down at the door, like that. And if a wolf would come, he would see, because he would lie down with his staff at hand, and the walls would be high, so the wolf wouldn't be able to jump over it, because there will be mud and thorns on the top of that little corral. And if there's ever a sheep that go out, he would close that door, leave the 99 very safe here, and go after the one that's lost, because Jesus said, I have sheep that does not belong to this fold. So that's the context. They would understand it. They would clearly see this image, this figure of speech as soon as Jesus is speaking, but we wouldn't, because most of us have never seen a sheep before. So we don't know what that means, but that's the context of what's going on. And then, just so we don't leave this behind, very quickly, verse 25, I told you, and you do not believe. The works that I do in my Father's name bear witness about me, but you do not believe because you're not among my sheep. So again, the whole idea of believing to belong, it's wrong. They didn't believe because they didn't belong. Because those who belonged believed instantly. That's the idea. God knows his sheep. He knows them by name, which is a beautiful picture. When we get to the end of John, for example, Mary doesn't recognize Jesus in the garden. She thinks he's a gardener. But the moment Jesus says her name, Mary, she's like, oh, this is Jesus. So that's a connection there anyway. So, and then he says, my Father who is giving to me, verse 29, my Father who is giving them to me is greater than all, and no one is able to snatch them out of the Father's hand. I and the Father are one. So Jesus is consolidating, saying, no one snatches them from me, no one snatches them from the Father. I and the Father are one. And then again, another mic drop, close the book, seal the deal, walk away, deal with that. So that's chapter 10 for you.